it's my picture. I have a mix. I have characters and creatures, you know, but creatures are not really the key of the picture. Because it's difficult to make a believable creature on the screen. If you show it too much, even today with the perfect special effects, it becomes what you say, obvious that it's a special effect. So I try to have a lot of effects in my picture, interacting with humans and creatures also, you know. But I think I never had a creature as the key of my picture, as the key character of my picture. They are the enemy, the friend, it depends, but they're always not the most important part in the picture. Yes, I really like when I fell in love with monsters, and mostly with creatures. Yeah, I was say 7 years old, 8 years old, you know, and I really did like the fantasy. Those monsters in these years, in the 50s, you could see on the screen mostly were moving jerky, you know, were men in a suit. But I like the general mood of those pictures. I like the escapement they offered to the imagination. I think I'm not a realistic guy, you know. I like working with fancy, and those pictures offer me what I was looking for: fantasy, plain fantasy, science fiction, horror, you know. And I was fascinated by that, and still I am.
What's that movie, The Creeping Terror? I think
Oh,
that
that scared me to hell. Oh, that gave me nightmares for 2-3 years as a kid. Because that monster was a slimy creature, you know, and it could move. And till I saw that picture, in my mind, I saw that if I closed the door of my room, I was safe at night time or whatever. But that thing could crawl beneath the door, you know. It could reach me anyway. So I was scared to hell by that. That really gave me nightmares. Yes, I started shooting, I think I was 14, 13, 14, yes. When the Kodak released the Brownie camera, which was the first very cheap camera, which didn't work with batteries. It works with a hand, with a rig. You had to change the wire with your hand. And when you shoot, the wire unfolded, and it did last 30 seconds, and that was the end. You could not shot no more that shot, you know. So that was the camera I worked as a kid, and I was obliged to start thinking of editing, even if I didn't knew that editing existed, you know, because my shots couldn't be longer than 30 seconds.
So you were probably filming consecutively as you wanted the film to turn out, so basically editing in the camera at that time?
Yes, the first picture I did, I was editing them in the camera.
And were these monster movies that you did?
What?
Were they monster movies that you did with your sister?
Yes, it's in that period. I was doing the picture which were playing in the theaters. I remember I did my own version, 2 minutes long version of Psycho. I did.
Wait. You did a 2-minute version of Psycho?
Yes, because the film cost, and so I had to compress my picture. My idea of my own movies were 2 minutes long. The timing which the film could allow me. And on those time, you had to buy the film, which I cost, let's say, $10. But $10 for a kid like me were a fortune. And then when I shot it, I had to bring it back to the lab and to wait for 2 weeks before watching the result. So it was very complicated way of making movies. Today with your mobile you can do it and instantly watch it. In those times it was all different.
And your sister was playing the Janet Leigh character in the Psycho?
Yes, she says that I was always killing her in the first shot. That was, she says that I wanted to kill her.
Do these films still exist someplace?
No, I think they don't exist anymore.
Oh, I would love to
I threw them away some years ago.
That would be amazing to see.
Yeah, sure, I agree, but only for a personal memory, not as a film.
All right.
I remember I was shooting all my pictures. They needed, those shots couldn't work with inner light. They could only work on the sunlight. So I shot this picture on the balcony of our house, which was small. And imagine that the balcony was a countryside, a city, whatever, just in my imagination. And I remember I did my own 2 minutes version on the House of Usher, Roger Corman, Vinnie Price picture. And I had built the house, because there is a house which gets on fire at the end of it. I had built a house with paper, with paper, and in the end, on the shot, you can see the house of paper just sitting on the pavement on the balcony, and my hand with the fire, going near it and having it to burn, and retiring while the house burned. It was ridiculous. But in my mind, that was my version of the House of Usher.
I mean, early special effects by Luigi Cozzi.
Yeah, very early, and very special.
So how did you come to work with Joe D'Amato on Paradise Blue? That seems like a very unlikely collaboration for you.
It was. But the guy who was the link between me and Joe D'Amato was the production manager, who was a production manager on Starcrash, who was a production manager on Dario Argento movies. So I was friend with him. And when he was hired to work on a Joe D'Amato production, they had a problem with scripts. And with one script, and they asked to the production manager, "Do you know anyone who can set the problem on that script?" And he said, "I'm sure Luigi can do this very easily." And so I was introduced to Joe D'Amato through him. And they said they also needed a new script. And they said, if you write the new script, we can pay you and offering also a trip to Caribbeans. We are going to the Caribbeans to shoot them. we can bring you along to the Caribbean with us, so you will solve eventual problems with that during the shooting. And I said, but I'm coming with my wife. And they said, yes, you will come with your wife at our expenses. So I accepted, it was the first time ever for me on the Caribbean. And it was a wonderful month, a warm month there, in the big hotel, Oh, he was a professional. He was very professional. He knew what he was doing. He knew the budget he had at his disposal. He was very practical, and he was very fun. He was also a very funny man, and I worked very easily with him. He was a professional, not artistic. He was very practical. And Valenti was the guy who had the idea of Anna Bergman. He had the idea of having her signing the picture as a director and using the name of her father, the famous Swedish director Ingmar Bergman, for advertising, for publicity. And she accepted that. She was made a contract where she was going to direct, but only to play as an actress. The picture was going to be directed by another guy, Joe D'Amato, and but she agreed to sign it as a director for publicity reason. Well, the project was born out of Daria because she, at that time, she has been separated from Dario by many years. But one day she said, I would like to do the third mother, the follow-up, because people were, at the time, there existed only Suspiria and Inferno, no third part of the trilogy. Actually, the third part did not exist because the three mothers were dealt with two movies. So there was no need for a third movie. But people started stalking Dario about doing a third movie. And Daria said, I would like to do it myself, because she was the co-story writer for Suspiria. And she gave me her idea. But I felt, being me, close friend of Dario, I could not do the third mother stealing from him, So I started to change Daria's idea into a story which dealt with some hacker directors who want to do the follow-up to the two mothers for movies by Dario, And I did work changing it, and then it became also an ESP sci-fi story, inspired by Carrie, by Stephen King and Brian De Palma Carrie. And the picture was very different from what Daria wanted to do in the beginning. That really goes back to the origin of that idea, which is the Philip K. Dick way of writing novels. It's a sci-fi writer. He wrote Blade Runner, And in his movies, in his first books, there were the world kept changing. The first book which made him famous among sci-fi lovers was Eye in the Sky, which is during the visit to a nuclear center, there is an accident. People get a strange kind of contamination, and visitors were, let's say, 5 visitors. And those were all contaminated. And all of the 5 visitors, little by little, start to realize that they are living in a different world now. And that world they are living in belongs to the mind of one of the 5 visitors. And then it turns into a world belonging to the mind of the second visitor. And they are switching words, in continuity among the visitors. It's a kind of nightmare without end, and that's where I got the core of the idea from the Philip Dick novel, and which later on, that novel was written in 52, 53, a very, very long time ago. And then this idea was used by other sci-fi writers, and then it started spreading among the pulp literature, the mystery, the thrillers, and but the original is from that novel. Oh. And I went back to the original inspiration to build the many words of my lead characters, She keeps switching from words because there is a mind, different mind, which is turning her into this different world, trying to get rid of her.
Have you ever worked with any ideas from J.G. Ballard at all in any of your screenplays?
Well, I loved the J. Ballard first novels, the sci-fi novels, and they were terrific. The Drowned World, and I did actually shoot a sequence out of a Ballard novel in my first movie, The Tunnel Under the World. There is a world sequence, it's a 10-minute sequence, which is word are actually taken from the Ballard novel. It was the novel when, I don't remember, I think it's the Crystal World, when everything is turning into crystal. Slowly, 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 the crystals are advancing and conquering all the earth. And I found that writing of Ballard fascinating, and I did use it as a voice-over for a sequence all set in the snow, which is a kind of icy, crystal-like thing, and with a strange word from Ballard going on voice-over on the soundtrack. I had not to worry about selling it to a producer. So I built it freely, not being obliged to put some key elements which were after some other picture. And I think it's the people who saw it say it's quite a different movie. It's a kind of movie which after going out of the theater, you start thinking to what you're seeing. And some guys in Germany where I played recently, they said, the morning after I realized what you've done. It's very strange, but it's cute. It's a picture which today pictures, the very moment you step out of the theater, you forgot the title. You forgot what you saw. You saw some crashes, some buildings exploding, some superhuman doing fantastic things, but you don't remember anything else specific. This picture obliges you to think to what you're seeing, if you want to connect it all, because I wrote it, and shot it, not in a plain way. It's the story is simple when you realize, when you think to it, but the first 3-4 sequences seems to be completely apart, each from the other. In the end, it's explained that this led to this, and this led to this, and this led to the end. But when you see it, you are a little, disoriented. because it's not plain way of telling. It's like a puzzle. You have all the pieces, I mixed them. If in the end, when you complete them, you realize that every little piece felt exactly in this place, and they form one thing. But you realize only in the end, and if you think to it. The viewer is obliged to think to what they're watching. It's funny, so it's not too heavy to think, you know. It's funny, so you can enjoy it. It's very fast, so you get not bored by the dialogues or whatever else. But if you really want to realize what you saw, you must think after it. After you saw, after you got all the elements, you realize, oh, but that is because, yes, now I see.